You're listening to The Discovery Pod, a podcast dedicated to conversations with leaders in the social profit sector. Discover the origin stories of CEOs, founders, and other senior leaders and learn from them so you can accomplish what is most important. Now, on with the show with your host, Douglas Nelson.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of The Discovery Pod, Conversations with Social Profit Leaders. Today on the show, our guest is Kevin Cohane. He's the CEO of Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario Foundation. Welcome, Kevin.
Thank you very much. It's great to speak with you.
Kevin, tell us a little bit about what's going on at CHEO and what our listeners should be paying attention to in the months to come.
Unfortunately, CHEO is always a busy place. We are very, very fortunate that we have the opportunity to serve not only the Ottawa region, Eastern Ontario, Northern Ontario, Western Quebec, and Nunavut. So we serve a vast, vast region, and that's a great honor for the CHEO team to be able to do. It's also a big challenge because when you touch the lives of 500,000 children a year, then you need to have a lot of people behind you helping you to make sure that we deliver the kind of care that these kids deserve.
And with the mandate that broad, I would imagine you've got a really diverse donor base that supports the work of your foundation.
We really do. And I think more than just a diverse donor base, I think we have likely the most diverse lineup of fundraising activities of certainly any other foundation in our region, and something that we would probably share just by the fact that we support children's health and the population we serve. We're forced into a more diverse lineup of fundraising activities. I think I'd find that a number of my colleagues across the country would be in a similar situation.
And as CEO, how do you keep a coherence, or how do you keep all of that organized when you've got that diversity of revenue streams happening?
Well, I think the key to any success that we have is the fact that we have a great team. We support an incredible organization that is really, really respected and cherished within the community. And we have an unbelievable lineup of people who we call partners. They're donors, they're volunteers, they're event organizers, they're sponsors, they're corporate partners. You name it. If I want to point to what our success is, they are the reason behind our success.
Mm-hmm. And with that broad spectrum of activities going on, how do you pair that with setting priorities for fundraising, for where you think donors or your partners can make the greatest impact on children's health in your region?
This is something where we may be a little bit different than some others, and I'll have to really explain, but I see the foundation as being on the trailing edge in terms of alignment with CHEO. So we aren't here to execute our own mandate of initiatives to support CHEO. What we do instead is we're here to support the work of CHEO and the CHEO Research Institute and also Roger Neilson House. So what we do is we align behind their priorities, and our fundraising activities are designed in order to provide us with obviously the capacity that we need to meet our commitments to CHEO, but also that create sort of not a mutual fund of activities, but certainly something where not all of our eggs are in the same basket, and we can hopefully withstand years where there are greater or lesser returns in one particular stream, that our other streams will be enough to elevate us up to where we need to be, and in many cases, in most years, above that.
That's one of the really great advantages of having that diverse revenue stream. I really like that phrase, we're on the trailing edge, and I want to ask you a little bit more about that. So we align behind the priorities of the Roger Neilson House, CHEO Research Institute. Really great ideas. Are there ever times when you are going to your partner and saying, we need you to clearly articulate your priorities? And how do you broach that subject?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And it's a common challenge, not only for our organization, but I'd say a lot of foundations that support organizations, both in healthcare and otherwise. So I think we are really, really fortunate right now that there is tremendous alignment between the leaders of the organization. And we understand that the only way that we're going to be able to accomplish the goals that make life better for kids and families is by working together. There's a real open and honest dialogue that goes on between myself and Alex Munter, who's the president and CEO of CHEO, Jason Berman, who's just taken over as CEO and scientific director of CHEO Research Institute, and also with Roger Neilson House, where the executive director, Megan Wright, is also the head of palliative care here at CHEO. So it's making sure that we have alignment between those people, that we have a shared vision of what it is we're trying to accomplish and how we're going to do that. And from our standpoint, again, we believe that the thing that we need to adhere to is making sure that the money that's used by our organizations is used with the type of intent that our donors have, We're always mindful to be reminding everybody that when we have discussions around the things that the foundation can support, that the foundation and the word community are interchangeable. We, the foundation, are a reflection of the community. That is interchangeable. We are so fortunate to live in a community where there's a sense of ownership, an ownership stake in the hospital, in CHEO, and we are constantly just putting that focus on the type of support that we provide. So we're not like a government bank account where you would go and draw on things which would not necessarily mesh with donor intent. And there's a great recognition and appreciation for that among the leaders of the organizations we support. That's a big hurdle. So typically what we do is we have discussions around what are the things that you need the support with, what falls within our scope that we are able to support, and we're able to align and make sure that things that are important to take CHEO from being a place that provides good care to one that provides exceptional care is largely filled by what donors in the community help us to do.
Right. And that orientation of being the voice or the vehicle of the community support, I think, is challenging for some foundations to get their heads around or to put themselves in that place, because it really does. The perception is that lessens the importance or the prestige of the foundation. My experience across the country, both Canada and the United States, is those organizations that position themselves as that vehicle for community support are the ones that are raising money most consistently, most sustainably, and moving things forward. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, I mean, so from the day I was lucky enough to come into this job, I made it a priority to make sure that myself and the leaders of the hospital and the research institute were well aligned. And part of that is I see myself and I see our role as being here to support them. So when we have events where we bring donors together, I want people to hear from, yes, I want to thank our donors, but I want the CEO of the hospital to share with us and share with them the impact that community support is having within the hospital. I want the thanks to come not to the foundation. I want the thanks to come to the community. Because again, people don't love the CHEO Foundation. They love CHEO. And we're here in order to help the community to exercise its desire to make life better for kids and families by collaborating with them, connecting them with opportunities to make improvements within CHEO, to support research at the Research Institute, to make sure that children that are in life-limiting situations receive all of the care and support and love that they need. And it is just a complete honor for me and our team to work in support of those amazing people that provide that care and conduct that research. So, maybe it's from growing up in a family of 8 kids where you didn't have, everybody was treated this, everybody was the same. And you needed to find in different situations what your role was in that. And I recognize that in this role, my job is to help to make sure that CHEO has everything that it needs, the community has a chance to participate in that they understand the importance of the role that they're playing, they feel appreciated, and that they can see themselves inside the walls of the hospital in the things that are happening here. And for me, it's an absolute honor and a privilege to have a chance to play that role. And that's how our team feels.
It sounds like it's a very natural role for you as leader. Are there ever times where you are pushed to maintain that perspective? Or are you feeling like, I need to be at this table, or we need to be considered, or we need to be positioned in a different way in order to continue to do the job we're doing?
Our support is very broad-based. So we have a huge number of community events, which both large and small collectively add up to an awful lot of money that we put into CHEO each and every year. So one of the challenges is always to make sure that we are able to be out there and to be actively engaged in as many of these events as we can, so that we can adequately thank people in the community. The challenge is not of a lack of desire to do it. The challenge sometimes is bandwidth to make sure that you can get to all of these events, still do the work that we need to do in our offices, and for our staff to do that and still maintain family life. And it is supporting one another and divide and in some ways split up the job and make sure that we have enough leaders on our team to get out and be able to adequately represent the foundation in the community in the way that we need to.
Great. One of the really important parts of representing the community comes down to your foundation board. And what percentage of your time would you say as CEO is dedicated to working directly with the board?
So probably less than some of my colleagues from what I understand. So, I would probably say it's only 10% of my time. And really, I think we've got the good fortune to have the history of working with a board that views the foundation really as a fundraising organization, and that they come onto the board with the idea that their role, while important in the sense of oversight and making sure that the foundation is run responsibly, ethically, that it is not exposing itself to undue risk, that it is upholding the reputation and the values of the organization. All those things, I think, very confident that we have the confidence of this board and subsequent generations of boards. Where they also see, I think, the importance of their role is that they are, for us, important connectors to different networks that they each have. We have representation on our board from some of our corporate partners. We have representation on our board from different communities that support us. And what each of them does in a very, very different way, again, is help to be advocates for CHEO. They help to open doors for the staff so that we can get in and share the important work that CHEO has to do and see if we can't connect people with the work we're trying to do and their desire to make sure that every kid in our region is able to live their best life.
Right. Well, on behalf of all of your colleagues in social profit organizations everywhere in the world, congratulations on getting to 10% of your time being spent with the board. That is truly a feat. You've been in the role as CEO for around 7 years. You've been with the organization for much longer than that. As you've been in your role, how has your conversation working with the board changed?
So it's changed quite a bit. And I think it's probably important for me, anytime I'm talking about my involvement with CHEO, to wind back before I was at CHEO. And I was very lucky to be working in the world of media. I was in the marketing and sales end in my career with the Ottawa Citizen, so it was the newspaper industry. 5 years before I ever came to CHEO, and 5 and 11 years, I had incidents that made CHEO special to us. And that was, I had 2 kids. My daughter was born and was a frequent user of CHEO for asthma, and she would be here, we would be here frequently. And then 6 years later, my son was born 9 weeks prematurely, came to CHEO in an isolate, transferred here to the NICU, discovered that he had more challenges than we thought when he arrived, soon went into surgery, developed a respiratory ailment, and CHEO saved his life. So I cannot think of a more powerful incentive to have somebody be buying into the mission of an organization than to have cared for one of your kids and saved another one. And so 5 years later, when I was given the opportunity to come to CHEO, I came here for a very specific role. I was not from the charitable sector. I didn't have, a lot of the knowledge and experience within the sector that one might expect to come into a vice president of development and corporate relations role. But I had come from media marketing and sales and had worked with a lot of organizations, both through agencies and through, major contacts at corporations across Canada, that I had an unusual contact list to come in to support things like our lottery, which was one of the main reasons that I was brought in was to work on CHEO's Dream of a Lifetime Lottery and take responsibility for that and some other sponsored programs and things, the types of activities which don't qualify for a tax receipt. When I got here, it was evident to me, A, just how much I had to learn, and B, how lucky I was that I was surrounded by a group of people who were so willing to share what they learned and what they knew with me so that I could catch up. First thing I admitted to them is, everybody here that is working for me, you know more about this job than I do, and I'm going to learn about it through you. And I was very lucky, and they helped me to do that. So as long as you're willing to admit what you don't know, I think it's the best way to go. And I can tell you to this day, I'm still admitting all kinds of things that I don't know. And I mean that. And I'm learning from our team. I continue to learn from our team every day. And from people that are members of our board or people that are supporters who do things for us, who provide for us, each of them, unique perspectives on what we're doing and how we might do things differently. So I love to be able to take advantage of other people's thoughts and ideas. I like to share my own and get people to provide feedback on them. And I like to make people, comfortable in knowing that if you don't like what I'm saying, I'm okay in hearing that. I may not agree with you, and I might do what I was going to do anyway. But at least I value the feedback that comes, and I've hopefully avoided some situations which would not have been had good outcomes by listening to others. And hopefully we've had some experiences that have turned out better because we did listen. So
Yeah, I think that really the very best leaders in our sector understand and take to heart the idea that they don't need to be right, but as an organization, they need to find the right answer. And it really does change the tenor of the conversations around the senior management team or around a board table to have a leader that is that open. You mentioned that you're learning from your senior management team. As you've been CEO for a few years now, are there issues or ideas or projects that you're more comfortable letting them just run with than you were in your first couple of years as CEO?
So I was lucky to have been here again for 12 years by the time I had taken over as the CEO. So the people that I had the opportunity to work with and watch, I had already gained a great deal of confidence in. What I knew was if you give these people the right type of support and the opportunity to do their work and don't try to micromanage it, but be there to help and support and provide feedback and at times move in and offer opinions which may or may not have been solicited, that's my job. And I'm so lucky to have just an amazing team. I've got people who I never need to worry about where someone is. If I don't see them, I'm not worried that they are not working. I know they're working and they're working out in the community where I need them to be. When I come into the office on a weekend, I find the office, it looks like a weekday because these are guys that are in here at times. When you're in this business, we're so heavily event driven that I have people here that I literally need to say to them, pull them aside and say, you really need to think about how's your time off and what do you need? Are we being fair with people? Because we're event driven. So, and all these guys want to support our event partners and they don't want to do anything that doesn't reflect well on CHEO. They don't want to do anything that lets down our event partners, that have them feel not supported. They understand the importance of what the money is doing within CHEO. And I am blessed. You always assume that this is the way it is everywhere, but I'm very lucky that I go to events and activities and people are constantly saying to me, you have an amazing team. And I feel so proud when I hear that. And I quickly agree with them. And I attribute the success of the organization to the leadership we have across the team.
It's really good to hear. One of the challenges that we often hear in the sector is that it's very hard to find people who are ready to move into executive director or CEO roles. And there's quite an industry of search consultants who work to fill chairs when CEOs vacate them. What advantages do you think, or what's your perspective on having been in that organization for 12 years? What did that allow you to do when you became CEO as opposed to if you'd been coming in from the outside on that for day one?
Well, I think in this case, for me, it was a massive, massive, massive advantage. And I think it's been good for the organization. And the reason I say that is because if I had not worked in some of the areas, so again, I was responsible for actually running some of our major events before moving out of those and having people come in behind me. So what it's allowed me to do is consult with the people who are running activities I used to do. I'll use our lottery as an example. So the person that's now running our lottery, Dan Champagne, has taken that to a level that, quite frankly, it was not at that level when I was doing it myself. He's made massive improvements in it. And that's what I brought him in to do. He's looking at it now with some different tools available to us now that there's, the analytics and other tools that we now have, which we did not have when I was doing it. But he's taken advantage of that. And our team has taken advantage of those things. And we are constantly trying to innovate and trying to find different ways to connect with our supporters to make that go. So just to put that into dollars and cents terms, it's possible that last year we netted over $4 million with our lottery in a relative, this is not a huge market. So that is quite an achievement that I'm really proud of. And this year we could crack 5 million. So this is, again, I've done this. I know how difficult that can be. And to see the kinds of increases we're seeing in that area, to me, speaks to the strength of our team, but also just the benefits of I've been able to offer feedback and at least put historical context on why some things were done because I was here, and then get out of the way and let Dan and the other rest of people on the team look and say, how can we modernize this and take it forward and utilize the tools that are now available to us to consider the things that we did in the past and why, but to evolve them and take them forward. And they've done that. It's and that's just one example. There's been many of those examples across our team.
What advice would you give to somebody in an organization who is anticipating a change in the leadership in the next couple of years to prepare themselves to be ready to step into that CEO role?
So in my role, I think it's incumbent on me to be as open and transparent with our senior leadership team as I can possibly be. I mean, we all like to think that we're going to be here forever, or that we get to come and go on our own timelines and schedules. But the reality is that life happens. If something was to happen to me, I would not have felt that I did my job if I didn't think that I could go away from here. And at least for a prolonged period of time, this place would continue to flourish because the leadership across the team is so strong, and because they were already so well in tune with what in the direction that we're going, that we would, not be disadvantaged by my absence. And I feel really strongly about that. And I feel confident that we have incredible leadership across the team. And without trying to be self-deprecating or anything of that nature, I really think that this team could move this ship forward extremely well with or without me. And they would need leadership, obviously, but the leadership, I think, can come from within.
And what advice would you give to someone who, either on your team, or you can think of a hypothetical person, that when Kevin is ready to move on in 25 years or whenever you're going to move on, what advice would you give to that person to be ready to step into a CEO role, they're at CHEO, or to move on to another organization to be the leader?
So I don't think I would just limit this to what I would say to people for the CEO. I would say what I've said, and I continue to say to people at every level. You can't become a job opportunity time superstar. So what you need to be somebody who is a leader on the team at whatever level you're at every day that you're at work. Because that way, literally, I've been so fortunate that opportunities that have come my way were not necessarily things that you applied for. They were something and I'm like this, and I know many people who are like this. If you know that you're going to have changes in your team through a variety of causes, whether it's retirements or really good people getting opportunities elsewhere, and you need to be looking at, who do I know that is a great performer? I know their style, how they work with a team, and there's simple things, right? It's how do they interact with their coworkers? Are they the first people to embrace change and to help make sure that the change happens properly? Are they people that offer constructive concerns in the right environment to caution us from going down the wrong path? Or are they people that go off and try to cause derision in the team and upset the team? All of those things, are they the things that your mom and dad taught you when you were kids, right? Don't lie, be honest, be fair with people. They're just basic values that will serve every position. It'll serve you well. And if you want to get to the next level in any organization, no matter what level you're at, do the best job you can in the one you're in now. And that's the best preparation you can get, because there's only going to be, one new CEO at this foundation, but there's going to need to be a great team. So either as the leader or as someone supporting the leader, do the best job you can. Let's try to keep egos in check and keep goals and objectives in mind. And if we do that, we're going to have a lot of success, and we're going to have a lot of great leaders within a team.
Yeah, that's very good. A good friend of mine, Veronica Carroll, her advice is for people wanting to step in is show up. And whatever that means to you on whatever day of the week, just show up. And I think that's your advice, to show up with integrity and intention. I think is a nice addition to that. Where do you find new ideas or inspiration as a leader?
I think through a lot of discussion with our team. I was finding when I first came into the job that there were things about, especially with our senior leadership group, that you'd be forced to have the same conversation 2 or 3 times over the course of a day. And what we did was we just simply said, and this sounds so basic, but everybody has coffee in the morning, right? This is nothing innovative to have a coffee meeting with people. But the fact is that if we're in here and get together, and during the course of the coffee, yes, you have a little chat about, might talk for a minute about what the game was on last night or something that occurred in local news. But then you get on to, here's the things that happened yesterday. Here's some things that are happening today. Keeping it so that the communication, there's not long lag times between communication flow between people, supposed top of the organization and the bottom. I like to look at it as flat as possible across the organization and not have those. But I think the idea is when you do that, the idea is it gives the opportunity for communication to happen fairly easily. And ideas, some of our greatest ideas, or some ideas that we built upon, have come from people who are not our fundraisers. And they're people that work as part of our team who've provided great ideas that we've been able to work together and build upon. And I think it gives everybody a real sense of achievement and input. And And hopefully that they know through every part of the organization that they're valued.
Yeah. As we come to the end of our conversation, I really want to just reflect back a couple of the things that you said. And I really love that concept of being on the trailing edge. And that's something that I may be using in some presentations over the next couple of weeks. But that in-service mentality to view the organization as a place where the community expresses its commitment to the hospital, I think is a really powerful image for social profit leaders, regardless of their sector, to be paying attention to. And what's come through really strongly is just your commitment to an openness as a leader to new ideas and the expertise of the people around you and the board members that support you. And so often in the course of our work with the Discovery Group, we come into organizations where a bunker mentality or a defensiveness is set in. And it's just really refreshing to hear of an organization where that defensiveness, when it does appear, dissipates very quickly and doesn't show up very often. So congratulations for that. And
well, thank you. And I actually, again, I would put the credit for that to the other people that make it possible to work that way, right? I mean, it doesn't work by just one person doing it. It means that there's a number of people that are on the same page, that all have the same focus on doing what's best for kids and families. And I think if you always put kids and families and their needs first, the rest of the stuff takes care of itself, because it is, everybody will rally behind that. And people can sense when there is important work to be done and there is important need. You know, one of the things that is, to me, fundamentally different about working for a children's hospital, we are so lucky here in Ottawa. We have incredible organizations like the Ottawa Hospital, the University of Ottawa Heart Institute. Those are the two that come to mind most often for me, or immediately, although I've seen it in other wonderful hospitals in our region as well. And we have one fundamental difference. In all of them, we have exceptional people trying to do great things for their patients and their families. And the only difference is our patient population is newborns to the age of 18. We cannot target that population from a fundraising perspective. And the people, the young families that we have, even those parents are themselves in the adult health system. They have themselves aging parents in the adult health system. The focus tends to go forward. You're in the adult health system, and when your children graduate out. So we need the support to come from people that don't use the hospital, that don't forget, and they look back and they realize that I either had a time when my kids needed CHEO, or had a time when they were lucky enough that their kids never needed CHEO, but that there are still kids and young families in the community who won't be major gift givers. They won't be the people that we need to rely on to accumulate most of the funding that we need. Young families are amazing. They organize events. They buy lottery tickets. They sponsor friends in certain activities. They make donations at the cash, $1 at a time, every time they go through some of our retail partners. But they can't be the big heavy lifters. And we need the rest of the community to look back and say, the health and well-being of kids in our community is so important. Kids have always been, in most people's lives, the number one priority in their life. And they need, at times, to align their own philanthropy, what their core values are, and that is making sure that those kids are taken care of. Luckily, in Ottawa, we have a lot of people who do that, and our mission is really to go out and try to activate the others and say, no matter what you're doing, please take a look at what we're trying to do here, and if you can help us, it'll make you feel good, and we'll certainly appreciate it.
And to all our listeners, that's exactly what it sounds like when a hospital foundation effectively embraces movement philanthropy. That is really powerful, and great words and great lessons, Kevin. Thank you so much for being a part of the Discovery Pod.
Doug, thank you.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Discovery Pod. Be sure to tune in next week for another inspiring and informative conversation. Don't forget to visit our website, thediscoverygroup.ca, for more resources. If you like what you just listened to, please subscribe and tell a friend about it. Until next time, keep working to make your organization exceptional.